So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russ Meyer. I am the Division 6 Director on the IEEE Board of Directors. On behalf of IEEE, the world's largest professional society advancing technology for humanity, we welcome you to Florida Atlantic University and the 2025 IEEE Digital Education and MOOCs Conference. We are excited you are joining us, and we are confident that you will find the keynote presentations, workshops, panels, posters, and paper discussions valuable to your continuing professional education. This conference is organized each year by the IEEE Education Society, a technical community within IEEE. Founded in 1957, the Education Society is one of the oldest technical communities within IEEE. It is a worldwide community of professionals dedicated to ensuring high-quality education in science and engineering. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Diana Andone, an IEEE Education Society Distinguished Lecturer and the Society's Vice President of Conferences. This year, the IEEE is honored to have this event hosted by Florida Atlantic University. Please join me in welcoming the 2025 Conference General Chair, Dr. Maria Mercedes Larrando Petri, who is the Florida Atlantic University Professor of Computer Engineering in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and an Executive Director of the Latin American and Caribbean Consortium of Engineering Institutions. Maria.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the IEEE DEMOcon 2025. I would like to recognize the sponsors of this event: IEEE, IEEE Education Society, Florida Atlantic University, and the Latin American and Caribbean Consortium of Engineering Institutions, known as LACSE. For the first time, IEEE Education Society is using a virtual conference platform to hold a fully hybrid event. It's called Agora, provided by LACSE, providing the full interaction among in-person and virtual participants. And the keynotes are being live streamed through YouTube for all IEEE Education Society members. I would also like to recognize the efforts of all the volunteers that have made this event possible. Diane Andone, who's the treasurer of the conference, a great leader and guide in this. She is from the Politecnica University of Timisoara. Technical program chairs and co-chairs, Alex Duncan from Georgia Tech and Jessica Sandland from MIT. Publication co-chairs, Hui Wang from Northeastern University and Jose Texier from LACSE. Award co-chairs are Mary Ellen Wiltrout from MIT and Carlos Delgado Cruz from Universidad Carlos III de Madrid in Spain. And the exhibitor chair, Manuel Castro, is from UNED in Spain. Our opening plenary speaker today is Dr. Diana Andone from Politecnica University of Timisoara, Romania, where she is Director of the Digital and Distance Education and responsible for planning and implementing digital education, as well as an Associate Professor in Multimedia, Interactive, and Web Technologies. And among her many accolades, Dr. Andone is an Eden Senior Fellow and is the IEEE Education Society Vice President 2024-2025. She was awarded the IEEE Education Society 2021 Distinguished Chapter Leadership Award. She has extensive research and publications in this area and more than 30 research and educational international projects. She teaches course modules not only in Romania, but in universities from the United Kingdom, France, USA, Finland, Italy, and Greece. Without further ado, please welcome our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Diane Andone.
So please allow me to say thank you, especially to our host, to Professor Maria Patry from Florida Atlantic University, because she has done a tremendous job during organizing this conference and bringing all of us together. And we have a small present also from her, which is coming from Timișoara, from Romania, where it's going to be the 2026 conference. So this is from a host to the next, from the next host to this host. But first of all, please allow me to welcome virtually Professor Arnold Pierce, who is the president of the IEEE Education Society, with a welcome message to the entire conference.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Arnold Pierce, and I am the current Education Society President, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to DEMOcon 2025 on behalf of the Education Society. Our society is approximately 9,000 members strong, of which 50% are students and young professionals, which shows how relevant we are to young professionals and students around the globe as they try to build careers in this ever-changing world. We're also a global actor in engineering, education, and policy. We're interested primarily in the learner, but also in the intersection between learners and technologies. And perhaps even more importantly, the pedagogies that lie behind these developments. Today and in the coming days, I think that all of you can look forward to talking about the intersection of all of these three areas, trying to envisage what is the education of the future. I have a couple of words to say on that topic that I hope will prove inspiring to you for the rest of the conference. AI and education is going to be a major topic that we all need to address in the coming years. And I hope that many of your conversations will be very fruitful in this regard at the conference. One of the things about AI and education is the opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity, to engage in cognitive offloading. We've always been able to cognitively offload. We've been able to use devices like the slide rule, the graphing calculator, more recently, suggestions from Microsoft Word, from other tools that help us to analyze how we are writing to others. And of course, now with AI, we can generate images, we can correct our grammar, and we can automatically generate text. This gives us both enormous opportunities to be more productive, but also gives us the opportunities to be incredibly lazy. If we cognitively offload too much to these tools, then we will cease to learn. So what are my conclusions here and my hopes for you in the coming discussions in the conference? As we move more and more online, we need to separate two things. It's very important to separate personal development, which is engaged in through learning and through thinking about how we learn and what we want to do as learners and how we use technology in our own learning. And professional performance, how we could use these tools to accelerate our performance in the workplace, to make us as professionals more productive, to be able to do more work in a shorter amount of time. These things are very important to distinguish, because in the learning process, it's not necessarily a good idea to cognitively offload yourself at all, while in professional performance, this may give enormous benefits. My take-home messages are the following. You need to be discussing an agile higher education and how we're going to teach AI in relevant professional areas in the future. You need also to be thinking about what is the focus that we have on AI content, and to teach students more than just how to use AI to learn, but how to use AI to maximize their professional productivity. We need always to think of AI in relation to intended learning outcomes. Are we helping to facilitate those outcomes, or are we damaging them? The opportunities of the Education Society also allow us to talk about a few initiatives today that I hope that some of you will get involved in. We have two ongoing initiatives that I myself personally am sponsoring as Society President. And we need Also to remember that the Board of Governors is here to support us. And so for those of you who are present at the conference, please look out for members of the Boards of Governors who will be attending the conference and reach out to them if you wish to get involved. Thank you for your attention and have a great conference.
So something about conferences and why we are doing all of this. So the Education Society has, like almost all the societies in IEEE, has two types of conferences. One is the financially sponsored conferences like this one. And you can find about all of them online. I'll go much faster because we are already about 25 minutes late than our schedule, which will mean that I will need to cut out for my speech somehow. One of the major conferences, IEEE EduCon, which will be next year in Cairo. The call for papers is still open, so please join us. Then it's FIE Frontiers in Education, which will happen very soon in less than a month in Nashville, and then it will be in Cyprus in 2026. Then it's Andone, which is the conference of the Latin America, as we call it, more or less. So it's in Montevideo and in Mexico City. Please join us. The call for papers for 2026 has been just opened, so you can still submit. And obviously, it's DEMOcon. I thank very, very much the chair of the steering committee, Professor Russ Meyer. I will say something about DEMOcon and also what's happening with DEMOcon also in the future. So DEMOcon is the previous Learning with MOOCs conference, which Russ, Manuel, Carlos from here, and a lot of others with Anand and so on have started, I think, almost 15 years ago, or anyway, so a long time ago. We decided to include digital education nowadays, about 2 years ago. And that was the first conference as DEMOcon happened last year. This year we are in Boca Raton and we are making a full disclosure. Next year is going to be in Timișoara, Romania. And we are doing another big change from 2026. We are joining forces with EMOOCs, which is the European Summit for MOOCs Conference, which is a very large event happening in Europe. And from now on, DEMOcon with EMOOCs will go together as a new rebranded or something like that conference. And we will probably announce something more at the closing session. So please join us also at the closing session if you want some more news about that. And obviously, it's going to be quite interesting. IEEE TAIL, Teaching, Assessment and Learning for Engineering, which is usually happening in Asia Pacific. And this year is going to be in Macau very soon at the beginning of December. And these are all the education societies. So if you join any of these conferences and you are an IEEE Education Society member, you get a 10% extra reduction on the registration fees. So that's a willing gesture, which we do for the Education Society members. And I'm very curious, how many of you are Education Society members? Raise your hands. Okay, so I strongly encourage you to become. This week, why I'm doing this, because I will close with that, it's IEEE Day week. And it's less expensive. It's 50% discount. So this is the week to join the IEEE and to join the IEEE Education Society. And as a student, it's free. So please share it there. What we introduced from this year is the Education Society Student Travel Award, which we gave first time in EduCon, and we have 2 participants, which we will disclose at the closing session tomorrow, which are here at, I hope they're here. If you know who you are, you can raise your hand to be sure that you're here. Okay, so hopefully they're here. Because we gave 2 student awards to participate also to this conference. We also have the technically co-sponsored conferences, quite a lot of them around, so we increased in the last years, we are around 30, 35 of them every year, and you can join any of the society's conferences as a reviewer, and please do that as soon as you can. And if you want to run a conference which has education and engineering in its topics, or you are already running, try to think if it's not worth joining the IEEE and to have it as rebranded as an IEEE Education Society technically co-sponsored conferences, because you get a lot of support and promotion from us. Read the newsletter and follow us online, because like that you will hear something more. As I said, it's the IEEE Day, officially tomorrow, but the whole week we have a lot of events in the IEEE community. So all the societies are doing different things. The IEEE Education Society has 3 types of events. One is that we are broadcasting live for free to everybody on the DEMOcon and on the website of the society, both these keynotes, mine and Luis from tomorrow. In the same time, we are going to have tomorrow a workshop dedicated for AI and how you can use prompts in engineering, which you can also follow online. And we have, as I said, full discounts for becoming a member of the IEEE Education Society. So please join us as soon as you can. So I prepared a presentation which was initially thinking of doing it a tiny bit different. And that's the beauty when you fly 9 hours to come here. You have plenty of time to change your mind in the plane. So I changed a tiny bit of my mind. So I have quite a long presentation. I will make it public, like everything, because I would like to point to 2 things on the screen. In fact, to several, but these are the first ones. It's shared with Creative Commons license, and with the exception of 2 images, everything is coming from myself or from some other. So it's mainly made by humans. Even that if I will speak about AI, I still try to provoke you to do as much as possible by yourself. I know it's becoming a challenge for a lot of us, and we will see why. The other bit, as I said, is the IEEE Day, where we are broadcasting this live, and that I'm also representing my university. And I will start with the IEEE Education Society. So my university, it's coming from Romania. It's a very old university. I mean, in terms of universities in general, has been celebrating 100 years. So in fact, in reality, it's as old as Romania it is. It has been established 1 year later after we've been established as a country. We do all levels of education since then. Initially, we were a subsidiary of the University of Vienna. And my department is in charge also of the distance education. So I have more than 25 years of experience on doing distance education in engineering studies. And next year, this is one of the reasons why, we are coming with DEMOcon to Timișoara is because we are celebrating, as you can see, quite a round number of years since the department and the education was established. In Europe is a big thing, the European Universities Alliances. My university is part of the European University Alliance UDRES with 8 other universities around Europe, and we are building a multi-university campus. So the things which we are promoting here, digital education, online learning, and all of the other things are core issues of the alliances of European universities. And this is why in Europe, everything which more or less in America, they consider is not as much as needed, like open education and online education. It's quite big on the agenda of the European universities. This is my repository on AI, on Zenodo. Zenodo is an open science, open access platform from Europe, more or less, which is strongly promoted by the European Commission. And you will be able to find all the presentations and quite a lot of things about what I've done in AI in the last years there in this one, because this is dedicated to AI. I need to say something. I graduated a master in artificial intelligence more than almost 35 years ago. Obviously, at that moment, we were speaking more of neural networks and how those will deal with. After that, when I was doing my PhD, I've been quite drawn to the learning analytics part and how those are influencing how students learn. And I've been doing a lot of things with data since then. And in my university, we teach topics related to AI at undergraduate and master and PhD level for many, many years. So I've been quite interested by this topic. And recently, I've been doing a lot of things with AI in education just because I thought we can. I'm curious, how many of you have been, because this is an image to do a test, in fact, have been to EduCon 2024, which was in Greece? Have you been to my talk there? Okay, so now This is a talk of memory. How much you remember from my speech? I told you this is the first test on human brains. Do you remember what is the unifying thing between these four images? And for the others, try to guess. Think. It's an engineering thing, so I will make it very clear from the beginning. And all the images are 3 made by me and 1 coming from a colleague from my university. Come on. Those who worked at EduCon, I know these 2. They were for sure at EduCon here in the front row. This is how much you remember after 1 year and a half, you know? Okay, so we'll see. What is unifying them is welding. And that's the metaphor which I will try to use with you for the use of AI or for the incipience of AI nowadays in our life. Why? Because when welding came up at the end of 17th, 18th century, it completely changed the industry, how things were done. And you see here some amazing results of welding. It was banned as being very dangerous, and it still is a dangerous engineering process, which requires training and a lot of knowledge, a lot of involvement, and teams of people working together. At the end is the human who is deciding and making the quality of the welding process, because that's the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. I don't know how because it's flipped image now, so it's, you recognize it now. It's in the right corner, I think, on top, which has been done with welding. So imagine what beautiful things you can do. The other one is an art statue in Timisoara city, in the city center, in the Baroque city, a modern art which is saying superhumans, a Superman and a Superwoman. And then the other one is a major thing with whom we would probably not have had cities like this now, which is plumbing and canalization. So very basic things have been influenced by welding. And that's probably, in my opinion, how AI has been influencing for a while now, and also will influence in the future the society as a whole. So please take that as a generative idea from me. The other idea which I would like to share with you is that I try to encourage everybody, especially with the generative AI in education, to look how you can co-create together, because we really need to take a full control over what we are doing with AI in education, and also to benefit from how much we can do it. And all of these are areas where you can find information, you can do it, and I have been doing several trainings on that. Obviously, like in all my presentations, I'm not alone here. So take your phones or your laptops, and let me see if I can do this online. Can you copy the link somehow, or I need to do it from here? Oh, sorry. Apologies for this. Let me see. Okay. In fact, I don't need to be seen here. Let's do it like that. That's much better, no? Okay. So, in fact, that's enough. And the many questions, hopefully they will work. I'm on EduRoam here, and hopefully everything will work fine, are like a survey. So you have a set of 7 questions among which you can move around and answer to them once. Because I wanted to set it up and then at the end to have a basis of discussion, and then maybe a basis of discussion also for the panel, if also in the afternoon and tomorrow. So let's see if we are ready. Everybody have been able to scan it. Okay, then let's go further. Okay. Oh, we have already some questions, some answers, sorry. Okay. So I will just comment on this one and on the next slide. And as I said, if we have time, we'll do it later on, because I have only 20 minutes now left or something. I don't know. I have loads of slides and a lot of information to be said, but that's life. Usually, I get one word from my experience. This shows usually, if you get very diverse, this shows that people really use it, in my experience. This is my opinion. And that means that they have very different takes of how they use AI in education or something like that, or in different things. Because if you do this with people which are not that familiar with AI, you will have one or two major words. And the words which will usually come is frustrating, which is also here, but is not that big as from the others. And the other one will be revolutionary or something like that, and which is, again, not really coming here. So this shows that these people have been using quite a lot AI in the recent years. My next question, let's see. Okay. How much do you think that AI is going to transform our lives? And how much do you think we are in an AI revolution? And these are questions which I'm asking because they set the tone for a part which, as I said, I've changed it in the last hours of doing this presentation, which I believe that we are quite going to be transformed by AI in a lot of areas. And I think we are just at the start of an AI revolution. So I quite see that quite a lot of people are with me in this one. So I hope you will find interesting what I'm going to say soon. So I've told you that I have two images which are made with AI. This one is an image which is more than a year old, done with an AI software. And I will not say too many about AI software just because we're broadcasting also live on IEEE web page. And I asked, create an avatar of me. I put my name, and that's all. I didn't give any indication, nothing. I have some images online, obviously, but I'm more or less blonde usually, and also with green eyes. But I never made this sign in any image, in any photo. How on earth you made up the victory sign? I have no idea. That's one of the things which got me. But the thing which got me very curious is that it made me as a warrior, as you know, a famous warrior, because of my name, probably. For those which are familiar with Greek mythology, they will know my name means a warrior and a goddess. Diana, I'm speaking about. And that's why probably it made it like that. That's my explanation. So it created from several images which found online an image of myself, but which myself, I don't recognize myself in it. So that's another curious thing which gave us some thought. And this will create an idea which I strongly believe it in the last at least 1 year, even more than before, is that AI will really shape almost all the industry, but it will shape education the most. And it will shape it in its framework, in its organization, and in its structure. And for this, we really need to be able to work closely together. And why? Because we are somewhere here now. We are moving from dilemmas and from questions to find out solutions on how to achieve AI work and better work and support in education, and especially in higher education, but at all levels of education. At least in Europe, it's a big concern nowadays on primary and general education on how we use AI and how it's coming. So we don't do anymore if, we do it now how. And because of this how, this is a recent report which was just published less than 2 weeks ago by OpenAI, which is a very interesting report. It shows the data which was analyzed by all in the recent years from across all the search and everything. So they had access to all the data from OpenAI, from all the tools. There are 4 researchers which have done this. The data shows very clearly, I don't know, you can still see it, that tutoring or teaching as a clear keyword asked in the prompt came up very high. If you see, outside of some specific info, which is very general, so I don't know, some directions or things like that, is the highest rated direct question which people ask on ChatGPT. which means that is not going away. It's there, and it's a bit worrying. And please read that report. You will have access to all the data, so you will be able to see. Another report which was released recently, and in fact, which sparked the ideas which I'm going to share with you, some of it, is the UNESCO Global Report on AI and the Future of Education, which was released on the beginning of September in Paris during the Digital Learning Week. And it's 160 pages, comprising a lot of experience from the global level of education at all levels of education. And these are the major areas which it covers. And my initial plan was to showcase for about 5 to 7 minutes ideas from this report. But I changed that idea in the plane, as I said. And instead of that, I'm going to share some of my ideas which were inspired by the work which I've done recently, and also by this report and all the papers which obviously we all read about these topics. And everything what you see with a mauve color or a violet color is more or less my idea. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily the complete truth or something like that. It's just a personal idea, which might be a tiny bit philosophical for engineers, but I still believe that we need to think more about how and why we are doing it. I keep saying this, that it's not anymore about the power. In engineering world and in computer science, we speak so much about having supercomputers and having the power and having access to big data and so on. But I strongly believe that if we look in the education area, and especially also in education engineering, we need to do a shift on doing this. And this is also on how we teach AI to our undergraduate and to master students. Because we need to allow them to understand what knowing will mean. And I'm putting here knowing and not knowledge, as you see, because I think the process of acquiring the information, validating it, understanding it, structuring it, and knowing what is true, what it is valid, is becoming a far more important asset for the human mind in the future than probably it was. And then, obviously, we will need to look at how we change all of this together. If we are speaking about the power of AI, it's clearly that it's inevitable. These reports and everything shows this. But we need to reinvent it, because if not, we're going to have a lot of risk of automatization. They will learn more or less similar things based on results which will come from an AI tool, and not anymore think about themselves, about why and how this is happening. And then also it's a huge cultural and language bias. And I'm not going to go into this because I'm pretty sure you are familiar with how the big data from all the major machines are coming and why we have a huge cultural and language bias. And I'm going to show you two open tools, which at least in Europe, they're trying to overcome this. We need to change also the pedagogy. I'm not a pedagogist, I'm a computer scientist. I've learned pedagogy later in my life, to be honest. And I'm trying still to struggle to understand why people learn how they learn and how they decide to learn something and not to. And I think the educators play a key role here. And I see that if we really train the educators at all levels to encourage and embrace the technology, and nowadays is even more important than it was probably some years ago. And we need to evaluate how we assess knowledge and competencies. This is a key thing, which I think worries everybody. I'm also an administrator. I lead huge numbers of professors and degrees and so on in my university. And it's constant worry on how we validate what we put in the diplomas as knowledge and competence of our students and how we reach them. And obviously, I don't know too much how it's in the United States, but in Europe, no education or degree goes out without a proper quality check, which is happening at every 3 or 5 years, constantly, very seriously, and accreditation. I don't know how it's here, but there is European-wide or national-wide. And a lot of issues which universities at least have nowadays, especially with incorporation of technology, is coming from here. I know this because I'm facing this every day, because the quality control and the accreditation has zero to do with any technology or AI. doesn't take into consideration nothing coming from there, or what are the biases which students now gain from there. I know I'm late, but bear with me, I'm sorry. We can close divides, obviously, but only if we are localized, contextualized. And as I'll say, we have a huge economical and digital divide, which will be enhanced if we don't act on it. And as the topic of my speech was going to go more to open and to open education principles, I hope I will still have time to show it to you, that open education is one of the key answers to overcome a lot of this, also including the ethical and the governance part. I strongly believe that we need to encourage everybody to be involved, and this is what, for example, we are doing in my university, my alliance, in different associations, and including in the education society. And we need to support open and collaborative structures. Then all of these issues which we have at geopolitical level, with the impact of technology coming mainly from the United States and being used by big, gigantic economical power, might be doing a tiny bit of a shift, or we might be able to take it over and use it better. I've been doing a talk about AI to a forum which happens in a monastery near Vienna, which is quite similar with Davos Forum, but this one is more for Europe. And they've been asking me then how I characterize the AI in society. This was 3 weeks before ChatGPT came up. And I said, I consider it to be a 4-month baby. Why? We knew that it's there, but we knew it's still a lot to be done. I've been asked recently, this summer, the same thing to another talk which I gave to more or less politicians and governments, how I consider AI now. And I will say it's a toddler, almost ready to go to school and to learn things. And how we are going to learn and teach that toddler how to approach the society and how to approach knowledge might affect what that toddler will do to us when it will become fully educated and it will take full power on it. And there I think, again, open practices has a huge role on it, because if we teach that toddler from the beginning a full transparency and accountability and using the open practices or the open principles, we might have a better society or a better use of doing it. You will find a lot of presentation, don't go over all of them, about the strategic adoption of AI in higher education and in engineering education. And you can see here that they need to go through a lot of processes, and all of these processes needs to happen at macro, meso, and micro level in organizations or nationally, because if not, they're not going to work. And obviously, they will be able to do it together if we go over all of them, because all of them are areas in higher education or in engineering education which work closely together. We cannot say, oh, we only teach use cases, or we only showcase how to do a better prompt engineering. We need to do all of them together. And one of the answers is obviously a lot of tools, and a lot of them are available on GitHub, so they're open, and you can use them or install them. And a lot of them are available in other communities, which are open. The huge number of open source AI tools, which is available now, is increasingly, growing at a faster rate than it happened 1 year ago. This shows that the society really understands that we need to use the power of open source as much as possible to be able to take over the artificial intelligence and really properly use it in solutions like healthcare, or military, or education, or in civil society. I'm pretty sure you are quite familiar with open education. I just wanted to drag to you that we've gone with open principles among the society. We started, I don't know how many of you know about this. In Europe, we are quite familiar with this, about Johannes, in fact, Comenius, who was the first one which in the Enlightenment period put up the idea that education is a primary asset for everybody. and made education available to all. And he introduced the idea of the open education. It's really like that, written like that in Latin and in Spanish in his language. Yeah, hold on. Let me. Okay, oh gosh. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ras. It's popping up, and I don't know what. And without glasses, I can't really read what is here. I'm trying. I'm just guessing. And then it changed, obviously, in the 80s, then in 2000, and I think a lot of us have been doing a lot of things with open educational resources with MOOCs. What I think that in the last year we've seen is how these open principles are reshaped by AI, but it's also shaping how AI is being done or taught. And these are all the basic ideas where we can work together on the open principles. The first one is open technology. So to develop and to support the open source AI. You probably know about the open LLMs, and Bloom is one example, and a lot of the others are coming up. And here you have the Llamas models, and which are available. Almost quite a lot of universities nowadays use them with success or not so much success, but we are using them. And then I told you there are two big things in Europe. One is financed by Swiss with a lot of other organizations and so on. And they launched in September 2025 a very large LLM, which is, believe it or not, dedicated to education in engineering. And they are looking more or less on examples and study cases from here, and you can use it. If you have an idea, you want to use it, they will give it to you, and you will be able to use it and test it. In the same time, just last week, the European Union has had I think in February, March this year, a huge hackathon and a huge challenge. It's called the AI Challenge for Europe. And 3 organizations won that challenge, which meant that they got a huge amount of money and also a huge amount of data access to a lot of LLMs to build up that. Tilde Open is an open learning language model, which will going to be used for non-English languages from Europe. In European Union, as you are aware, with the exception of Ireland, nobody speaks English. More or less, nobody teaches in English. And that means that we need a tool which looks at languages and cultures which are completely underrepresented on the other LLMs. And Tilde is one of the answers which just been launched, and we've been doing it. We've been testing it. My team, we've been testing this. Probably you're quite familiar with Davey Wiley idea of open prompts and sharing them and having a repository of open prompts and the ideas and experiences from them, and teaching our students how to learn with open prompts and taking it from there. Then obviously open weights. So the next step of doing it, and also encouraging of doing open APIs. We have some intelligent tutors in education, which are more or less, with the exception of last one, based on open source LLMs, and which are available for everybody for free to use and to test. And they are based in universities, more or less. Probably one of the most famous for you is Harvard AI Tutor, but also the AI Tutor Pro coming from North Canadian universities and supported by the North Contact Association. And I'm showing very quickly something which I'm going to present later today, a paper, which I done. It's a work which I've had with one of my master graduates, Valentin Sorescu, who unfortunately is not here. I hope he's following us online, where he's been doing and trying to incorporate this in Moodle, which is another open LLM, which in Europe is very much used. The vast majority of universities will use Moodle for their education systems. And we use the stable VPS and so on, and we tested and implemented it, and we tested and validated for 2 courses, 2 very different courses with different structures and different models of how we deliver the education. And they are both courses which are not fully online. I mean, they are just support courses for educational in our university. And just some ideas that it's possible. And it really facilitated the access to the information and tutorized and so on. We control it. We've been able to adjust also the prompts and that idea of the open prompts. But it's a huge challenge if we want to deploy it for the whole university. First, obviously, the high server costs. We invested quite a lot through the National European Resilience Plan on supercomputers and super servers, but it's still taking a lot of power from us. And we are testing it we just started school on 1st of October. We are just releasing it for the master students for the moment. So we are still in the process of seeing how it's going to work and how it will be. It requires a lot of training, and we need to evaluate what is the impact on the learning and on the knowledge if the students use a tutor completely online. What we can do, and where a lot of people are doing it, is on the production and management and reuse of open educational resources, which can be shared with AI. And obviously it can be done from the content to creating a more engaging and more interesting content with the support of different tools from AI. What you can do a lot is internal linking. So a lot of those which will take a lot of time to really do it when you're doing a fully learning resource can be automated with AI and with good tools. We are familiar probably with the generative aware. I found this one as a very useful guide on how to do generative awares from Connecticut College. And they quite put up like how you can really do open license prompts and open license model weights and so on, and which you can download and customize and readapt and so on. And it's something which also in Europe we've been doing quite a lot, but I wanted to have some United States examples also in my talk as much as possible. And also they quite have some ideas about which are the benefits, because they've done some studies on it, and also the challenges and the concerns, which are still there, is the accessibility, how we make it more accessible and more available to all, especially for other languages and for other cultures, how we get rid of the biases and where the humans will take over. One thing which I don't have in this presentation, and I will take a moment to say about here, I don't know how many of you know about the 70 rule, 70, 20, 10 rule. Does it ring a bell to you? We use it also quite a lot in engineering, and it's used quite a lot also in management. It requires how many of those different types of resources you do to earn something. And it's considered that 10% is usually creativity, and that makes the difference between all of the others. I had a talk about how you use 70, 20, 10 with AI in education. And I consider that 70% is the human brain. Because and only 20% will come from AI and 10% is the technology. So how good you have the data. You can have very small amount of data, so not really big data, but if it is a good quality and you have a good algorithm, then the results can be more promising and much better than the results coming from big data. And then obviously, if you have a good model, it's going to work. But the impact on how people are asking and investigated that with an AI model and how they are using it and integrating it and evaluating the quality of it and then putting it into an education area will be huge. I've seen a research done with 70, 20, 10 in healthcare. It's considered, for example, that in several healthcare domains, like for example in image, X-rays, I think it's X-ray or something like that, yeah? It's exactly like this. A lot of our X-rays are AI analyzed now. And that gives the first input. That's why the time until you get a result from a consultant, it's much shorter. Because all of them are using AI. All the major hospitals all over the world, even in smaller countries, are using AI. And that just shows also the impact it has. But what I will strongly encourage you to do, and what we've been doing for quite a number of years, is having students as co-creators of OS, but especially with AI. And you can find different papers and also my presentations and so on, and how you can do it with teams of students. I have my colleague here, Mark Freidenberg, with whom from 2008, we are creating OS in teams of Romanian and students from an American university. So we pair students on 2 continents, 2 very different universities, working for a period of 6 months. It's called TalkTech, and you will find a lot of examples about that. And they need to create something which is then licensed and publicly aware, and then sometimes it's recreated and reused by others next year. But it's certainly used, because what we ask them to do are things which we then implement and use either in a lab or for a company, or like Timisoara was European Capital of Culture in 2023. For 2 years, we produced cultural products for visitors and so on with the students in co-creation. But the most important bit for that one is that you need to do a proper evaluation. So the students to really understand at the end how to do it. So you have quite a good process on how to develop it. And this is, for example, one example with my master students, which are learning multimedia technologies and instructional design. And they needed to do a course in cooperation with somebody from our university, and then put it in our virtual campus. And they needed to create the resources. And they needed to do it together with AI and critically evaluate at the end. And they've been evaluated, tested, and marked. So it's part of their assignment. You introduce it, it's a huge theory. In engineering, I'm pretty sure you all do it. It's non-disposable assignments. So you do projects with your students, which at the end are used either in a lab or by industry, or in your course or something like that. So you don't create activities with your students and projects with your students which are not reused. It's something which is, at least I've been educated like that 35 years ago, back in Romania, that with non-disposable assignments. We just call it like that nowadays. I think I discovered it in the late 80s in the pedagogical, literature. But then they use a lot of things, and they've been creating also multimedia educational examples with this one or with Momentum and so on. Then they done OR translations and localization with a lot of tools, so made it available for Romanian language. We've done this also for Lithuanian and other languages from Europe. And then we integrated some of them in those open online courses, MOOC type courses, which we run in European Universities Alliance. And the key thing is that students at the end were asked to evaluate how they've been doing it, what was the impact of AI, and they needed constantly to inquire the results and the work which they were doing. And that really showed how they've been able to do it. We've done it also for Spotlight Heritage, a project which I ran for 5 years, dedicated to the culture and heritage of my city. And we had the voice, for example, there integrated with AI, and it's been done by 3 students. We'll skip the video. It's done by 3 students in the course of less than 3 weeks. And if not, it would have cost me huge amounts of money to have more than 2,000 pages translated and with text voiceover, so they are more accessible. And people also for visitors, because people don't go around the city reading, they go listening. And so on. And because we constantly change the text, this is done automatically, constantly, continuously. They developed a tool to do that. And they learned how to pronounce the Romanian words, the dates, and a lot of things. So you can do a lot of things like that. Then it's obviously in academic integrity. I strongly believe that with more transparency and more accountability, we will be able to have a better integrity and in research and also in academia, if we use the open principles. And these are some examples on how you can do it. Obviously, we are quite aware about the personalized learning. I can't escape the MIT Open Learning, which they've done huge works on, and they collected some examples around the world and study cases on how open education can be used with AI, and it's been used. The Association of Global or Open Education Global is giving from last year AI in education and in open education more or less awards, and it's won by, not by a big American university, but the Mexico University of Monterrey, which is a big university there. It has loads of students, and they created all of those tools in Spanish language and for their students, and they are using them daily with their students. So it's fully integrated in a system, and very few people know about them. I will go very quickly about this, about the major risks. Obviously, we know about the biases and so on. What is really worrying me is more the OR's miss and reuse. So improperly use of ORs. One of the biggest problems which we know is that quite a lot of AI, especially the economically or the big names one, will use information which they will make found it without acknowledgement. How we build up proper OR systems with AI, which will acknowledge the previous work and will really carry the proper license further on. That's which I still don't have neither a technical, neither a pedagogical or methodological solution. We are testing several with ours and so on, we are doing it. And then obviously it's the huge digital divide. I know how costing is and it's not really helping a lot of us. So here are all of those which you can do. And basically I'm encouraging you, so I'm closing in 2 minutes, promise. I've been rushing a tiny bit, but let's draw some conclusions. Try to reimagine this open pedagogy and practices as a framework for navigating in AIs and having it a huge impact on education with open principles. Then obviously try to think on all these steps when you approach the strategic adoption of AI. As I said, I consider that the use of AI in higher education needs to be participatory and democratic. You don't need to wait, okay, the governance and the policies, they will need to make it. You need to be actively shaping all of those policies and strategical development. And the place to do this is by these people, which are here now, because they are those which knows about open, about online, and also about AI, I'm pretty sure. The other bit is that teach with AI. Look at different use cases and have a look at them on how they are doing it. And implement as many as you can from these use cases. And try to encourage it with open principles. Open principles applies to all of them. And if you are doing it right, it will happen. I will go quickly over this. Obviously, this is what you can do. You can have strategy, principles, policies, but especially have training and support. The people which have been doing digital education and online education for years, if they understand betterly how AI works, because that's why you've seen probably a question, have you learned about AI? You need to properly understand how, especially generative AI works, how it's doing it. And this is what we need to teach, not only computer science students or technological students, everybody, because you need to understand the process, at least the process, not the computing, but the process of how it works, to be able to be fully aware of the limitations and also of the power of it. And then obviously at the end, try to foster a culture of science-driven AI in the scientific community. People want to understand all of this, and they can really do it, but you need to learn, teach, and share it with the others constantly. If you share the practices and the ideas and the use cases which we have, I'm pretty sure, A, we will not repeat the same mistakes. B, people will start listening to us. I mean, big companies will take into account what we are saying and what we are doing, and they will try to shape it to answer to our requests and to our demands and to our wishes. And obviously, at the end, we will have a better knowing students, not who really acquire knowledge in a very fast and superficial way, and they're not really able to go over into deep and construct the progress of the future. Because that's exactly what we need to have, to be able to really encourage that toddler, which is, in my view, AI now, will be really able to shape the society and the evolution of it. And that's an image done with AI. As I said, 2 images done with AI. And that will really create a full framework where we can work together. And I'm closing here. I don't know if we have time for questions and for commenting on the Menti, but if we have, we'll be able to have it. So you have that information there. And I will share the presentation. As I said, it's been done I'm on Europe time zone still, so I've been doing quite a lot of things also this morning on it, which is usually not my case, but it's happening sometimes when you change the mind of what you're planning to say and you have time to think and reflect. Because I really been thinking for a while now on how all of these influence how we teach, especially in higher education and in engineering. Let's have a look at some of the answers if you've been doing it well. So you plan, you've done, and you still do it, but not as many as I was expecting. So I still have only 19 answers from the 28 people which clicked on this Menti. So I will kindly ask everybody to answer all of this because they will be made public. And this will help you to understand also on where and how we are at this moment. In the same way, let's see the next one. Have you learned about AI? Yes, one course. Very good. Make it often. Because the AI also, not the process and the technology is changing, but it's changing how we approach it. So constantly improve your knowledge about how, in general AI, but especially generative AI works or stable AI works and so on, because you will need to know it. I'm curious about the answers here. I need glasses for this. So to have a satisfying experience using AI in university, which of the following factors are the most important one? AI training at all levels. Very good. And guidelines to use AI. So you really nail it here. I'm quite impressed that the AI ethics is not higher up. I was expecting to have, because it's quite important to have a clear policy on the ethics and the plagiarism. Let's see some use cases. Coding, obviously, student support, teaching, AI graders. Can I say something? Don't use AI, or especially generative AI commercial versions for reviewing and for grading. You give away a knowledge and information which is not yours. And it's coming from you with your name and your username. So it's really unfair, not transparent, and not right. At least that's my opinion. Again, but it's also regulations in a lot of, also in our university and for example, IEEE conferences, completely forbid. And if we identify reviewers which are using AI for their reviews, they are not anymore reviewers for an AI conference or event. So try not to do that. I'm sorry. People keep calling me. My laptop is connected to my phone and it's, I hope you haven't seen that, but anyway. You need to see what your students are doing and so on, real-time classroom group formation analysis of outputs. Very good. Interactive learning, educational song generation. Oh, that's good. It's quite good, so quite a lot. AI assistant, reducing human errors, speeding up. Yes, it's very good on this. I really believe that if we will learn more how to really automate some of the administrative educational things which we all need to do. I've tried to do it and I'm using our own system for two things. I tested also this morning again because we pay salaries to the people. I need to check their work, 160 professors. It took me usually 2 days to do this. Now I'm doing it in 1 hour because I created some automatic systems which will help me to do that. Just because if not, it's just time which is lost. How AI works? Oh, the most important one is recognizing various sources of bias in AI from human inputs, data sets, or algorithms, and understanding how automatic decision-making can be biased. So this is excellent. So I'm very glad with this. So you really are doing it right. So thank you very much.